What does it take to challenge a system that has held an entire city in fear for decades? Money? Power? An army of thugs? What if I told you all it takes is pure madness and a will of steel? Today, you will hear the story of a man who single-handedly went against the all-powerful mafia. His name was Joe Gallo, but the streets knew him as Crazy Joe. He made gray-haired dons tremble with fear and respect him. Watch until the end, and you will discover the unthinkable alliance he forged in prison, a secret the FBI kept classified for nearly 40 years. New York, the mid-20th century, a city saturated with jazz, the smell of money, and gunpowder. In this concrete cauldron, the 5 mafia families ruled. Their laws were carved in stone, and their traditions hadn't changed for decades. They were the untouchable kings. But in the heart of Brooklyn, in neighborhoods where life was cheaper than a bullet, someone was rising who didn't care about their crowns. His name was Joseph Gallo. The son of a simple bootlegger, he absorbed the brutality of the streets from childhood. Together with his brothers, Larry and Albert Kid Blast Gallo, he formed a gang. These weren't mafiosi in expensive suits. They were brazen, hungry, and absolutely fearless guys, ready to do anything for a piece of the pie. They didn't bow to bosses or kiss hands. They took what they wanted by force. Their territory quickly became known as a place where even the cops were afraid to get out of their cars. At first, they were noticed by one of the mafia bosses, Joe Profaci, head of the family of the same name. He saw the Gallo brothers as perfect enforcers for his dirty work. Murders, extortion, robberies, the Gallos did everything quickly and without questions. For one such job, the murder of a hitman, Joe earns the nickname Joey the Blonde. He was young, handsome, and deadly, but Gallo wasn't just a pawn. He was a predator waiting for his moment.
Profaci was an old-school boss, greedy and despotic. He taxed his soldiers with exorbitant tributes, taking the lion's share of the profits. While the Dons lived in luxury in their mansions, men like Gallo risked their lives for pennies. Crazy Joe's patience ran out. He believed he deserved more. He saw weakness in the old mafia traditions and decided it was time to take what was his. He didn't ask, he demanded. In early 1961, Joe Gallo did the unthinkable. He did what no one had dared to do before him. Together with his crew, he kidnapped the top brass of the Profaci family, 4 of its top capos. It was a shot heard throughout the New York underworld. A young upstart from Brooklyn had taken the leaders of a powerful clan hostage. He had challenged the king himself. The entire city held its breath. Gallo issued an ultimatum. He would return the hostages in exchange for a fairer distribution of income. Profaci, backed into a corner, was forced to agree. But the old fox had no intention of keeping his promise. As soon as his men were free, he gave the order: kill Gallo and his entire crew. Thus began the First Colombo War, one of the bloodiest chapters in mafia history. The streets of Brooklyn turned into a battlefield. Explosions, daylight shootouts, bodies in trunks. Gallo's crew, though outnumbered, fought with the fury of the doomed. They weren't soldiers. They were street wolves. They knew every alley, every basement. They launched swift and brutal attacks, making mafia veterans shudder.
There were no rules in this war. Profaci's men tried to strangle one of the Gallo brothers right in a bar, but a police officer saved him. In response, Gallo's men launched a real hunt for the enemy clan soldiers. Crazy Joe personally led his men into battle. He reveled in the chaos. He felt alive in this storm of fire and lead. He showed the mafia what true fear was. But the system is always stronger. The police, tired of the war on their streets, increased the pressure.
In late 1961, Joe Gallo was arrested. The charge was mundane, extortion, but everyone understood it was just a pretext to remove the main cause of the chaos from the streets. He was sentenced to 7 to 14 years in prison. It seemed like the end. The Mad Lion was caged, but it was in prison that he became even more dangerous. In Attica prison, Gallo didn't break. On the contrary, he found new strength. He began to read voraciously. Camus, Sartre, Nietzsche, the philosophy of existentialism captivated him. He grew a mustache, started wearing sunglasses, and cultivated an aura of a rebel intellectual. Guards and other inmates looked at him in amazement. A gangster quoting French philosophers? It was unimaginable. But the most important thing happened when he befriended African American inmates. At a time when the Mafia adhered to strict racial prejudices, Gallo saw them as allies. He treated them as equals, shared his food, and defended their rights. He became friends with Nicky Barnes, the future Harlem drug lord known as Mr. Untouchable.
This alliance was a bombshell. The Italian Mafia, built on blood purity and tradition, couldn't even imagine cooperating with black gangs. But Gallo was building bridges. He understood that the future of the criminal world lay in joining forces, not in old prejudices. This prison friendship would become his main trump card after his release. While Gallo was inside, much changed in his family. Joe Profaci died of cancer. The new boss was Joe Colombo, and the war quieted down for a time. In 1971, Joe Gallo was released from prison, and he was no longer just a gangster. He was a celebrity. Books were written about him, his image romanticized. He became a symbol of rebellion against the system. Gallo plunged headfirst into New York's bohemian life. He befriended actors, writers, and musicians. His story inspired Bob Dylan to write the song Joey. He became an insider in high society while remaining a wolf from the streets of Brooklyn. But he hadn't forgotten his main goal. He still wanted power. Joe Colombo, the new boss, was a public figure. He founded the Italian-American Civil Rights League and constantly appeared on television, denying the existence of the Mafia. This publicity annoyed the other bosses. Gallo saw his chance. He got back in the game, but with new rules.
He began to gather under his wing not only Italians but also African-American gangsters from Harlem, brought in by his friend, Nicky Barnes. His new crew was multinational, daring, and loyal only to him. For the old Mafia, this was sacrilege. They saw Gallo as a threat, not just to their business, but to their entire worldview. In June 1971, during a league rally, Joe Colombo was shot by a black gunman. Colombo survived, but was left paralyzed for life. Suspicion immediately fell on Joe Gallo. Although there was no direct evidence, everyone understood Crazy Joe was back and had started another war. The Mafia issued a death sentence. This time, there could be no compromises. In the early morning of April 7, 1972, Joe Gallo was celebrating his 43rd birthday at Umberto's Clam House in Little Italy. His family and bodyguard were with him. He was relaxed and happy. He thought he had won. But the Mafia doesn't forgive. The restaurant door burst open and hitmen stormed in. They opened a hail of gunfire. Gallo, trying to shield his family from the bullets, overturned a table and fired back. He was hit 5 times but kept fighting. Bleeding profusely, he stumbled through the glass door onto the street and died right on the cold asphalt of Manhattan. The madman from Brooklyn was dead. His death didn't end the war, but it became a legend. Joe Gallo showed everyone that even the most powerful system is not omnipotent. He proved that one man, driven by rage and ambition, could make kings tremble. He was a gangster, a killer, but at the same time a revolutionary who changed the rules of the game forever.
The story of Joe Gallo is an anthem to the rebel spirit. He lost the battle, but his legend lives on and inspires. He showed that even in a world ruled by money and fear, you can forge your own path. If this story ignited a fire in you, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments what you think of Gallo's actions. Was he a hero or just a madman? And here's the hook for you. If this video gets 1,000 likes, I will tell you about the great war between the old mafia and the new blood. The battle for the throne of New York between John Gotti and Paul Castellano. It's a story of betrayal, luxury, and brutality that shook America.